Live, a Merrill Moss Media production. Today we are thrilled to have national bestselling author Maya Chance on to talk with us about the latest in her fairy tale fatal mystery series, Beauty, Beast, and Belladonna. Thanks so much for joining us today, Maya. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
And before we begin, I wanted to let everyone know that we'll be running a guest post from Maya. It's going to be up tomorrow, so please keep an eye out. We're doing a delicious giveaway with fairy tale brownies, so it's super exciting just in time for Valentine's Day. And we're going to be giving away a copy of Beauty Beast and Belladonna today, so please enter to win. You can enter to win on the page by, making a quick comment. So before we begin our questions, I wanted to just have you catch us up on Beauty, Beast, and Belladonna and the character Ophelia Flax and everything that's going on in her world.
Yeah, so Beauty, Beast, and Belladonna is the third book in the series Fairy Tale Fatal. And it's a historical cozy mystery that intertwines a whodunit type of plot, a classic whodunit cozy, with a mystery about the origins and the true meaning of the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale.
Right.
Um, Ophelia Flax is an American actress, variety hall
Hmm.
actress, in the late 19th century who has found herself, despite being a very prim and proper and practical minded New England girl,
Hmm.
in this world in Europe where people are mad about fairy tales, crazy about fairy tale relics,
Yeah.
willing to sometimes even murder about fairy tales. So she's found herself in this situation, and by this time in the series, she's deeply in love with Gabriel Penrose, who is a fairy tale scholar, a professor of philology, technically from England, who, despite being scholarly and intellectual and very well educated, he kind of believes that fairy tales are real
Hmm.
in the sense that they all have a historical origin.
Right.
So they find themselves once more thrown together, this time in the Dordogne region of France, the Perigord, and the story starts off in a chateau where both of them are engaged to other people.
Right. Right. And now, is this a standalone? Can you read these by themselves, or do you suggest that you read them all together? Well, of course, we want to read them all.
I think it will work either way. I took pains to make sure that they could be standalone if you picked up one out of order, and that they'll work. The only thing that you will sort of miss, the only thing that carries through the three with a
Right.
progression is the romantic subplot. Although each book they grapple with a different sort of romantic stage and romantic problem, so they could be standalone anyway.
Awesome. So, how did you first come up with the idea for Ophelia and all her adventures? Like, where did she kind of spring from?
She sprang from me being really bored in graduate school lectures.
Hmm.
Um, I'm still writing my dissertation technically
Hmm.
for American literature at the University of Washington. And at the time that I conceived of this series, I was doing my coursework. And the quarter that I thought of the idea for this, I was, as a TA, I was teaching a composition class, and it was composition for writing about literature.
Hmm.
So I had my students read fairy tales and read fairy tale criticism, all different kinds,
Hmm.
like Marxist criticism of fairy tales. There's all sorts of
Yeah.
things, and then write about it. So I was sort of enmeshed in fairy tales, which I had sort of picked at random because I thought they'd be approachable for the students.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was doing my coursework and my own writing on 19th century New England literature,
Right.
like Hawthorne, Edgar Allan
Yeah.
Poe, Louisa May Alcott. So people who are familiar with those writers might see a little taste of that landscape in Ophelia as a character, and also when she's thinking about her background
Hmm.
growing up in New Hampshire. In addition, my mom also lives in Vermont
Oh,
and
awesome.
right on the Vermont New Hampshire border,
Yeah.
and I've always been really inspired by the architecture
Yeah.
there and the landscape there.
Now, speaking of teaching that class, I took a fairy tale like analysis course. I remember in college, I loved
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah, and we did like the mark criticism, but then we also read like
Yeah.
some modern adaptations, like the fairy tale fables, like the graphic novels. Do you know those?
Uh-huh.
We read all those.
No, I've heard of them.
They're awesome.
There's some
So
wonderful
yeah,
newer versions. Yeah.
yeah, so they're fantastic. What are some of your favorite, just like modern kind of takes on fairy tales, like books, TV, that you kind of draw inspiration from?
Well, to be honest, I sort of avoid all of those. I know there've been a lot of, I hear great things about Grimm and,
Yeah.
is it called Once Upon a Time?
Mm,
And then there are all these new movies about Snow White, like Snow White and the Huntsman. I guess there's another one coming out. And I actually specifically avoid those because I don't want to be influenced subconsciously, because I totally do that, and I don't want to be derivative.
yeah.
I mean, I'm already
That
somewhat
makes
different. I'm trying to be deliberately derivative about
hmm
with the original, well, not the original, but the older textual version.
Right.
So honestly, I'm not inspired by, and when I'm done with this series, I'm gonna go on a fairy tale TV show and movie binge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so once you're done with it all, you're just gonna like, yeah,
Yeah,
totally catch
be
up.
like, finally. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you write historical mystery novels, which is different. It's like, not everybody does that. So how much historical research goes into your books? Do you really take a lot of time to do that, or, what's that process
Yeah,
like?
I do. I really do. Um, and I lie awake at night sweating about the things I probably missed, and I look in books that I've written and they're already out in print, and I subsequently have learned something like a little
Yeah.
off about the language or something, and
Hmm.
I do my best. But yeah, you have to research at every turn. I was lucky with the Fairy Tale Fatal series that I already had done a lot of research just through graduate school.
Hmm.
Uh, so very familiar with the clothes and the hairdos and
Right.
stuff like that. But even, for example, in Beauty, Beast, and Belladonna, the train routes in France are an important piece of the mystery, it turns out. And I really had to get up to my elbows in these railway maps,
Wow.
period railway maps to make it all click together. But I actually really enjoy that part. I love looking at old photographs. I keep Pinterest boards for my um, books, and kind of when I write a draft, I probably overdo it on the historical details, and I always have to trim a lot of it
Pull it
out,
back.
sadly.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome though, yeah. Is there any really strange research that you've come across when it's, comes to fairy tales or folklores that you were really surprised to see?
Let me think. Regarding fairy tales, I think most recently the strangest thing I came across was reading the de Villeneuve version of Beauty and the Beast. I was really familiar with the de Beaumont version. That's the version
Yeah.
that the you know the Disney movie looks a lot like that.
Yeah.
It's really familiar and it's kind of pared down, but it's almost too pared down. It didn't have enough inspiration for me
Hmm.
when I was getting ready to write this book. So I turned to a little bit older, I think it's 16 years previously in 1740, I think, that Villeneuve wrote the first Beauty and the Beast, which, by the way, was not an oral tale like a lot of fairy tales. Apparently, she just made it up.
Huh.
So it's unique in that
Yeah.
sense. Anyway, just reading her tale, I don't know what kind of smelling salts she was on, but it's so
Out there.
bizarre. I mean, and it goes on, and it's meandering and kind of one of those things where sometimes you have to push yourself to keep going, but it's filled with all these really strange details, and it has this like serpent motif
Mm.
and these this crowd of fairies who are really class conscious and just it kind of like it resembles in a vague way the de Beaumont pared down version, but
Yeah.
only only a little bit. So I actually recommend that to people who are interested in the tale because it's kind of an eye opener.
Wow. Elitist fairies and such. That's awesome.
Yes, they're really tough.
So we have a couple questions from our audience. Thank you guys for submitting. Um, so Jocelyn wants to know, do you have any writing quirks?
Writing quirks.
Quirks.
Probably a million of them. One of them is I get hung up on the details of wanting to write. Um, I guess I'm a control freak writer, and it's hard for me to hold back the details of like somebody scratched their eyebrow or what somebody's shoes looked like. I love to write about
Yeah.
um, interior decoration and architecture and clothes, and it just holds the stories back.
Hmm.
I've learned the hard way. People like don't make me my critique buddies don't make me read about this car for 2 pages, you know.
Hmm.
So I think that's probably a quirk.
Yeah,
I'm always trying to learn and get better. My goal is to make every one of my books better than the last one.
absolutely. So speaking of that, what's the next book in line for your fairy tale fatal series?
I actually don't know yet because my editor for this series, I signed a 3 book contract with Berkeley Prime Crime. My editor retired.
Oh.
And so the series is kind of like up in the air in transition
Mhm.
until probably we'll know what's going on at the end of the month.
Oh, great.
If I don't end up uh, continuing on with Berkeley, I think I probably would write a novella to finish up because this book ends still on a cliffhanger with
Yeah,
the romantic subplot, and I would hate to just leave it at that. So
right.
we'll see where that goes.
Well, I hope that we hear soon. Um,
Yeah.
Callie wants to know, how did you get your start as a novelist? Like, how did this all begin for you?
Um, well, I used to be a professional violinist, a classical violinist. I worked as a freelance musician in Boston
Wow.
for many years,
Hmm.
and at that time I've always wanted to sort of be a writer and I've always been writing stuff.
Okay.
So when I was in my 20s in Boston, I published a couple of romance novels,
Hmm.
really bad. They're under a pseudonym, luckily. Apparently it's easy to find it out anyway, but like I don't want anybody to read. They're total bodice rippers. They're not autobiographical, just so you know. And then that kind of was like, I did those 2 romances and I was not really enjoying it. And then I had this like aha moment because I was like, what am I reading every night at bed to go to sleep for just my pleasure reading after I'm done with all my work in the day? And it was
Yeah.
Agatha Christie and
Hmm.
MC Beaton. So I was like, well, then I should try writing a mystery
Yeah.
next. So then I wrote a mystery, and it was probably really weird. And I sent it out to agents, and they got soundly rejected. Except my current agent now, she liked it. She said it was too weird, and she couldn't sell it, but
Hmm.
send me the next thing.
Right.
I think that happens a lot. And so then I wrote Snow White Red Handed and signed with her, and then
Awesome.
went on from there.
The rest is history. Um,
Yeah.
are you planning on attending any conferences or events in the near future? What do you have to look forward to?
Yeah, I'm doing Left Coast Crime in 2 weeks,
Um,
and that's in Phoenix.
hmm.
And then I'm going to Malice Domestic in Maryland in, I think it's the end of April, beginning of May.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Those are always fun, writers' conferences.
Yeah.
Lots of people to meet. Um,
Yes.
do you have any advice for mystery authors looking to get published? Is there anything that you kind of realized along that route that you want to
Yeah.
share?
Well, let's see. I think I took the traditional route in terms of just getting published, like sending out the query letters, getting the agent, and that's worked really well for me.
Yeah.
I have friends who are self-published, and that's working well for them too. I think for self-published, you have to be able to handle the publicity and marketing stuff.
Right.
That's really tough for me.
Hmm.
For writing craft, my biggest piece of advice would be to read books about screenplay writing
Hmm.
and study. There's so many great websites out there about
Yeah.
screenwriting. Screenwriting, it's I think it must be more unforgiving than novel writing
Mm,
because they have less space to work with.
right.
Their structures are much more tightly designed, and I'm all about trying to get the tightest structure I can and getting the pace and the escalation
Hmm.
correct. And I've learned it all from screenwriting.
Yeah. So we have a couple fun questions just about Brothers Grimm, etc. If you could ask the Brothers Grimm one question each, what would it be and why? That doesn't seem fair to ask just one each.
Oh,
Like,
geez. What would I ask them? I would ask them, I don't know. Let me think. I think I would ask them about what it was like traveling in the places that they did.
yeah,
I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, nowadays, even if you're traveling in Europe, you can't find a weird backward little pocket with
right,
superstitious people.
exactly.
But I think that the world was different then because
Hmm.
of, no mass communication. And
Yeah,
I kind of wish I could have tagged along with them, honestly.
yeah, all their adventures, absolutely. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the Discrete Retrieval Agency series? That's your other series that you've been working on.
Yeah, so the Discrete Retrieval Agency is a humorous, cozy mystery series, and I'd say it's more of a caper
Hmm.
than Fairy Tale Fatal. There are certain resemblances to Fairy Tale Fatal, of course, but I think on the whole, it's a more lighthearted, and it's set in Prohibition era New York and Long Island. I think The Great Gatsby
Hmm.
meets Janet Ivanovich. That
Perfect.
was my sort of
Little pitch.
goal,
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
And the first book, Come Hell or High Ball, is out now,
Hmm.
and the second book, Teetotaled, is coming out in the fall.
Right, and you just
And
posted the cover reveal on your Facebook.
yes,
Yeah.
I did, and I love it. It has
Yeah,
martini glasses
I
and
love all of the
great
artwork.
dress for my character.
Do you have an
Yeah.
active role in choosing the artwork for your covers, or do you kind of just send the publisher ideas and or do they totally take the whole?
Um, with Berkeley Prime Crime, I sent them ideas. It was actually pretty cool because I had some ideas, and I mean, I already knew what Berkeley Prime Crime covers tend to be similar on a certain, they usually have like sort of a tableau of stuff rather than people on the covers,
Hmm.
the typical cozy looking cover. But I had input. I had a lot of input, especially on the Cinderella 6 Feet Under and Beauty, Beast, and Belladonna covers.
Right.
And then with St. Martin's Press, the discrete retrieval agency,
Hmm.
I didn't have any input other than saying I liked it when they when they sent it my way.
Awesome. Yeah, they're awesome covers. I love them.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the martinis on the cover. I know you are a martini lover, so can you give us some advice about, shaking a perfect martini? What is what are your tips?
Well, these days I'm actually really into this cocktail, which is dates from the Prohibition. It's called The Last Word or Last Word.
Oh, neat.
And it's an icy cocktail. It's one part gin, of course, Prohibition era, one part maraschino liqueur, which is a clear, it's not like the juice out of the jar,
Yeah.
it's a liqueur. One part lime juice, and then one part the magic ingredient chartreuse.
Hmm.
Chartreuse is this, if you don't know, it's this amazing French liqueur. And it's actually, they say it's the only liqueur that a color is named after. So it's this
Huh,
intense green color
that's awesome.
and has a delicious, it supposedly has like 80 something alpine herbs in the secret recipe, and the secret recipe, it's made by monks in the mountains, and only two monks at any given time know the recipe.
I was gonna
This
say,
is part of the reason I
where do
like
you
chartreuse.
acquire this? You're like, I climbed the mountain.
You can actually, well, the first time I went to France, I saw on every shelf in every, every liquor shelf in every restaurant. I was like, what is that stuff? Why are they drinking this stuff? And then the next time I went to France, I was like, I think I'm going to try this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really good. And it's actually not hard to come by. Any, larger liquor store will have it.
Right, right. Huh. I will have to
And
try
then you
that.
and then you shake it, make it icy, shake it.
So the last word is the name. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so which writers out there really inspire you? Like who are you currently reading, or who are some of your favorites that you've read in the past?
I read a great deal of Agatha Christie. I'm still sort of trying to make my way through her
Mm-hmm.
canon.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Oh
huge,
yeah.
but she's unfailingly awesome. I
Yeah.
don't know how she does it. So I read her regularly, and I've read every one of the Stephanie Plum mysteries by Jana Ivanovic. Um, I really am a fan of that series.
Absolutely.
And I'm also a big fan of MC Beaton's Agatha Raisin series.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my favorite.
Awesome. Do you reread
And
a
then I
lot
read,
of the classics?
I, I, not the classics. I have to admit that I've read all of the Agatha Raisin mysteries at least 2 times.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's certain things that I keep rereading. I don't know what it is about them, but it's
Yeah, you just
wow.
know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And I'm still reading from my dissertation. I'm writing my final chapter of my dissertation, and it's on Edgar Allan Poe. So I'm reading him these days too.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic. So which character in Beauty Beast and Belladonna do you think is most like you? Because I'm sure you inject your some of yourself
Let
into
me think.
characters.
You know, people have asked me that before, and I actually, of Ophelia and Gabriel, I actually identify with Gabriel
Hmm.
more than Ophelia somehow.
Hmm.
Because Ophelia is actually the practical one in the equation.
Right.
She's just very pragmatic, and she doesn't believe in anything magical or so-called superstitious.
Hmm.
And I think I would be. I'm sitting here in this. I keep telling people this. They might think I'm crazy, but I don't know if you can see this room I'm in.
Hmm.
These
Yep.
bookshelves. Um, this is a 1908 rental house, a Victorian house that we're renting in Bellingham,
Mm.
and it is completely haunted.
Oh.
So, yeah. So I think Ophelia would not believe that it was haunted, and Gabriel would. And then Gabriel has his sort of stodgy intellectual side, which I happen to struggle with as well.
So what makes it haunted? I want to hear.
Oh,
I don't think you're
so
crazy.
it's a second. Well, I've been in other haunted houses. I think I'm one of those people who like I can sense. I don't ever see things. I sometimes hear voices, but what I sense in a haunted place is these sort of like um, it's not a hot spot. It's more like a cold spot in
Yeah.
certain places, and it's always in certain places. And when you walk through the place, you it feels like it's kind of hard to walk through the
Yeah.
space, and I never want to be in that area. And it's always
Wow.
the same areas. So yeah,
It sounds like a
and I
haunted
and I sense
house.
an emotion. Yeah,
Yeah.
really can't wait to get out of here.
Oh
We were like, we
no.
thought it would be so, won't it be so fun to live in this like crazy, it has this tower and like a back staircase and all this. We're like, this looks so fun.
I
And after we
also
moved in, we were like,
I also live in a
what were we
Victorian,
thinking?
and it's
Oh,
yeah,
really?
double parlor style, and back like we have like a butler's pantry off the kitchen and a back entrance,
I
and it
love Butler's Pot.
I kind of thought it would be haunted, but so far I don't think it is. But like it has the whole setup. It's just there's something weird about the back entranceway and just our balcony
Yeah,
views.
so that's what I'm saying. There's always like, there are these like weird spots where,
Yep, I know exactly what you mean.
yeah,
Like way too well.
yeah.
So what do you think is
And
your,
my mom's house in
oh, go ahead.
Vermont is oh, my mom has this 1860s house in Vermont, and that one's haunted too.
Yeah.
As it should be, right?
Hmm.
Anyway,
Oh wow, that's crazy. What style house is it? It's so 1860s. It's like,
it's a second empire,
oh, cool.
and with the mansard roof.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Love that.
Yeah.
What do you think is ultimately your favorite fairy tale, if you can pick? Kind of
It's
unfair.
definitely Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had probably the most fun writing this book.
Awesome.
Although I I had a lot of fun playing with the motifs and the
Yeah.
themes of the beast and people acting beastly.
Yes,
The
that's
only
my
thing I don't
favorite.
like about fairy tale, the original fairy tale, is that the beast has to turn back into that
Mm-hmm.
sappy prince, you know.
Right.
Even my little daughter is like kind of disappointed at the end of her little board book when he turns into a prince. She's like, I like the
Yeah,
beast.
like fuzzy, like little fun beast.
Yeah.
Now, Ophelia's fiance, the Beast, he's such a great character. Do you envision like when you're ever writing, do you ever envision like an actor or someone who would play them if it was adapted into TV or film? Do you ever like see someone pop up into your
Yeah. So Gerard Depardieu.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect.
That's completely who I was picturing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What about the girls, Ophelia and Prue? Do you see anybody when you write them?
So with Ophelia, one time, I wish I had saved it on my Pinterest board. I one time actually found an old, I guess it was like a daguerreotype
Oh, cool.
of a portrait of a young woman in one of those 18, mid 1800s, those plaid taffeta
Yeah.
dresses with the hoop skirts and the hair parted down the middle. And she was like how I describe Ophelia as being beautiful, but in a sort of way that doesn't look pretty because it's too
Yeah.
plain and austere. And
Cool.
it was just so her, but I somehow like lost the file of that picture. And with Prue, she's more like just she's so pretty. She's just anyone like Barbie, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, not like Barbie, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
I
So she
gotcha.
could be any Hollywood starlet.
Yes, I gotcha. Yeah. Um, which fairy tale heroine out of, anything do you think is the most misunderstood?
Misunderstood. Well, with Snow White, I never really liked that character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why she gets so much mileage. I find the fairy tale kind of all the ones where the the prince has never met the girl, and then he falls in love. Like the fact that the prince falls in love with Snow White when she's in a casket,
I know.
just it's disturbing. So I guess that's not her being misunderstood, but she seems pretty charmless.
Yeah.
And then the Disney
Oh
version
my
of
God. Her
Snow
voice
White,
drives me
she's
nuts.
absolutely
Oh my,
horrifying with that weird little voice.
yeah, I can't.
The stuff of
Yeah,
nightmares.
right. And then she starts singing, and you're just like, ah, good.
You're like, make it stop.
Yeah.
So that's strange. I haven't seen the movie with the huntsman thing, but I did see the preview, and
Mhm.
it looked like she was going all like warrior princess or something. So maybe they
That's much
redeemed
cooler.
the role there.
Hopefully.
I'll see it sometime
Yeah.
later.
I have yet to see that, but hopefully they do. We have a question from Susan. She says, "Do you spend a lot of time on social media?" And she says, "Have you ever gotten any book ideas, or just suggestions from interactions with fans on there? Because I know a lot of authors, fans will be like,
Hmm.
"Hey, here's a name suggestion," or here's."
I would totally be open to that. I am on Facebook the most.
Mhm.
I have a Facebook page, Maya Chance, and I love to hear feedback. I actually was telling my husband earlier today, there's a book blogger called Carstairs Considers, and he just put up his review of Beauty, Beast, and Belladonna today. And his review of Cinderella Six Feet Under actually made me make a critical decision for
Wow.
this book with regards to making it a little less complicated than I usually do.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't just have like, I'm not like locked in my little space. I want to make stories that people love. And so
Yeah,
I am open to, yeah, ideas.
awesome. Now, for anyone who just popped in, because we're running out of time, we're almost at a half hour, which is crazy. It always goes by really fast. What are you working on next? Can you tell us a little bit about what's in the pipeline?
Mhm.
Cool.
Well, I'm just finishing up an editorial round for Teetotaled, which is
Yeah.
the next discrete retrieval agency book. I also just signed the contract for the next two books in the discrete retrieval agency series, so that will be coming up next.
Awesome.
And then I just finished my first contemporary that I am going to hand over to my agent pretty soon. That's in, it's even though it's a contemporary, not historical, it's still very much in keeping with my other stories. So I think fans of my current historical series would enjoy it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's yet to be determined what
Mm-hmm.
the series is called or who, if anybody, will be publishing it.
Yeah. Wow, you're a busy gal. Very busy.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well,
I keep myself busy to
yeah.
forget about my haunted
I
house.
was just gonna say that, writing over your shoulder, like,
Yeah, exactly.
oh man. Well, I wanted to thank you again for joining us, and we're giving away a copy of
Thank
Beauty,
you.
Beast, and Belladonna, her latest. And check out her guest post coming up on BookTrib, and we're doing a great giveaway of fairy tale brownies. So everyone,
Yeah,
comment on the page and enter to win. And have a great day,
great.
everyone. Thanks for the questions. Thanks, Maya.
Thanks, Amanda.
Take care. Bye, guys.